Good afternoon, friends. Uh, Last class we discussed few of the details of pneumatic circuitry. Today we'll discuss about some aspects of hydraulic circuitry as well. Uh, the cylinders, those are used as actuators in hydraulic and pneumatic systems, have the function of providing you the force and displacement. The hydraulic and pneumatic cylinder is an example of a linear actuator. Remember, we have got rotary actuators as well. In pneumatic systems, we have air motor, and in hydraulic system, we have hydraulic motors. They can provide me angular actuation as well. So these pneumatic cylinders are linear actuators. The principles and form are the same for both hydraulic and pneumatic versions. Differences being purely a matter of size as a consequence of the higher pressures used with hydraulics. As it is apparently clear that hydraulic systems are used for higher forces, and I want smooth transition of forces, smooth application of forces. There I go in for hydraulic cylinders. The cylinder consists of a cylindrical tube, as everyone knows, along with a piston or ram which can slide inside that cylinder. There are two basic types: single acting cylinder and double acting cylinders. The single acting cylinder, the construction is shown here, and these are the symbols of single acting cylinder. So single acting cylinder, spring retract type. So you apply the pressure, the piston is pushed, and as the pressure is removed, it will come back to its original position. So we have a single acting cylinder having a rear end cap, we have a piston, you have piston seal, we have cylinder barrel, then spring, retracting spring, and then piston rod bearing is there. And this is the piston rod. So front end cap, this is the front end cap and rear end cap. So these are the symbolic details. The term single acting is used when the control pressure is applied to just one side of the piston. A spring often being used to provide the opposition to the movement of the piston. The other side of the piston is open to the atmosphere. Figure shows one such cylinder with a spring return. The fluid is applied on one side of the piston at a gauge pressure P, with the other side being at atmospheric pressure. So produces a force on the piston of P into A, pressure into area, where A is the area of the piston. The actual force acting on the piston rod will be less than this theoretical value. This is because of frictional losses. Okay, so this is the single acting cylinder. Then we have a double acting cylinder, right? A double acting cylinder. So the symbol is like this: piston with two lines. In single acting, you had single line, spring return. Double acting, you have got inlet and discharge, or two inlet. This will be act as inlet in the forward stroke, and it will act as discharge in the forward stroke. And then when reversed, this will act as inlet for the backward stroke, and this will act as exhaust. These are the two, both are the symbols of double acting cylinder. Constructionally, rear bracket, front bracket, piston rod, piston seal, and then piston. And then you have two ports, inlet and exhaust. The term double acting is used when the control pressures are applied to each side of the piston. A difference in pressure between the two sides when results in motion of the piston being able to move in either direction along the cylinder as a result of high pressure cylinder. These we already know. The important thing is that how we can use these hydraulic or pneumatic cylinders in the actual circuitry. We can have a few more cases of studies wherein we require sequencing of these cylinders. What do you mean by sequencing of cylinders? When I got sequential operation, let us take the case of, let us say, a hydraulic press, which is pressing the sheet metal. Unless and until the sheet metal comes under the punch and die, and unless and until it is clamped, the punch should not move. This is my logical requirement. So what I can do, I can have one hydraulic cylinder for gripping the sheet. One piston will actuate pressure, actuate force, so that the sheet is placed exactly under the punch and die assembly. And after that placement of the sheet under the punch and die assembly, then the second cylinder that is actuating the punch should move. So this is what is the sequential logic. So there are many such applications. In typical cases, a lift, wherein though we don't use the hydraulic cylinders there, we use electric motors. I'm trying to tell you the sequential requirement. Unless and until the doors are closed, the motor should not move the lift down or up. So this is how I have a typical sequence of operations. In machine tools also, we have got sequential operations, sequential operational requirements. So in such cases, this cylinder sequencing becomes much more important. So many control systems employ pneumatic or hydraulic cylinders as the actuating elements and require a sequence of extensions and retractions. Extensions and retractions of cylinders to occur. For example, you might have two cylinders A and B and require that when the start button is pressed, the piston of cylinder A extends. Then when it is fully extended, then it has done some work. The piston of cylinder B extends. So after the cylinder A has reached the extreme position, then the cylinder B will start extending. When this has happened, both are extended. You might need the piston of the cylinder A to retract. So thereafter, after doing that work, one after the other in a sequence, the retraction should also happen. In discussions of sequential control with cylinders, it is common practice to give each cylinder a reference letter A, B, C, and D for ports or positions or motions, and to indicate the state of each cylinder by using positive sign if it is extended or a negative sign if it is retracted. So I have got two cylinders, let us say. So A plus is the forward motion, A minus is the extended motion, retraction motion, B plus, B minus, C plus, C minus. So positive sign is the extension and negative sign is the retraction. This is the above required sequence of operations is A plus, B plus, A minus, B minus. So I got two cylinders. So A plus is extension of cylinder A piston rod and A minus is retraction of cylinder A piston rod. B plus is extension of piston rod of second cylinder, and then B minus is retraction of that second cylinder. This is how I have the representation of two cylinders. Now cylinder sequencing, just be attentive a bit. Okay, this is my work doing cylinder A and this is my work doing cylinder B. So I got limit switches, let us say A minus position and A plus position, fully extended position. This limit switch will be actuated, and when it is totally retracted, this A minus limit switch will be actuated. So this is one port in and out, or this becomes in and out. And then I have got a directional control valve. Just tell me how to represent it. How many ports are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 5 ports are there. And what are the positions? 2 positions are there. So 5 port, 2 positions. So 5 by 2 valve. 5 by 2 directional control valve. Okay. This is directional control valve 3. And then I have got roller operated valve, which is 3 port and 2 position. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 3 port, 1, 2, 3, 3 port, and 2 positions, right? Spring retraction type, and this is roller operated. We require some external force to operate this. And then we have another roller operated directional control valve, once again 3 by 2 valve, and then we have a push button and directional control valve. So this is also 3 port push button valve. So we have numbered the directional control valves 1, 2, 3, and 4, and this is my cylinder A. Similarly, I have the second cylinder. We have come up to 4, then directional control valve 5, roller operated valve, and directional control valve 6, and directional control valve 7. This is my cylinder B, minus B for retracted position of piston rod of cylinder B, and plus B is the extension position of piston rod of cylinder B. So having understood this sketch, let us see the operation of this two cylinder sequence. Let us be a bit attentive. Initially, both the cylinders have retracted pistons. Both the cylinders are having retracted pistons. Start push button. This applies the pressure to valve B. Start push button. Start push button. Push button. Whatever. Initially, the pressurized fluid will be blocked. When this is pushed, this will come here, and this directional control valve will be aligned with this supply. So when this is pushed, the pressurized fluid will enter this line. Okay. So this applies pressure to valve 2. Pressure to valve 2. Okay. As initially limit switch minus B is activated, hence the valve 3 is switched. Initially, what he says? Initially, the limit switch minus B is activated. See, minus B is activated. So minus B is activated. Minus B is activated. Hence, valve 3 is switched to apply pressure to cylinder A. Valve 3 is switched to apply pressure to cylinder A for extension. Valve 3. So this will be aligned here now. This will be pushed. This will be pushed so that this position will be here. So that what will happen? When this position is here, this supply line will be in line with this supply pressure, and pressurized fluid will enter into this line. Please be attentive. And then this piston rod will be pushed. When this piston rod is pushed, it will just touch the limit switch A plus. So let us see. So cylinder A is having extension now. Cylinder A extends, releasing limit switch minus A. So when it is extended, limit switch A minus is relieved. When cylinder A is fully extended, limit switch A plus operates. A plus, when it is fully extended, A plus operates. This switches valve 5. Okay, this switches when A plus is operated. Where is A plus? A plus is operated. When A plus is operated, this will be pushed, isn't it? So because of limit switch, this will be pushed. So this will be aligned here. So this valve 5 will be actuated. Okay. So fully extended, this will actuate valve 5 and causes pressure to be applied to valve 6. When this is pushed, the pressurized fluid will enter here and it will push this directional control valve 6 this way. So that this pressure line will be aligned here and the pressure will be applied to cylinder B so that I can have forward stroke. When cylinder B is fully extended, limit switch B plus operates. And this cylinder B is fully extended, B plus will be operated. This switches valve 4 and causes pressure to be applied to valve 3. So when B plus is actuated, when B plus is actuated, what will happen? This will be pushed and pressurized oil will be supplied to this valve, and so that this will be pushed here. What will happen? When this is pushed here and this is pushed here, what will happen? It will be applied to valve 3, and then so the applied pressure, this applies pressure to cylinder A to start piston retracting. Okay, when this is aligned here, it will start cylinder retracting. It was already extended, it will start retracting. Cylinder A retracts, releasing limit switch A plus. Releasing limit switch A plus. When cylinder A is fully retracted, limit switch A minus operates. Fully retracted, A minus operates. This switches valve 7. When A minus actuates, this switches valve 7. And when this switches valve 7, this will be pushed here, or this will be extended. Then, valve 7 causes pressure to be applied to valve 5, and so applied pressure to cylinder B to start piston retracting. First cylinder A retracts and thereafter cylinder B retracts. Once cylinder B retracts, releasing limit switch B plus, and cylinder B is fully retracted, limit switch B minus operates to complete the cycle. And this cycle goes on repeating unless and until I press the push button. The cycle can be started again by pushing the start button. This is how my two actuator sequencing operation occurs. Now, to avoid frequent switching, pushing of buttons, they use cascade control. Quickly we'll do. We can refer it back once again. I'll always be putting these lectures on YouTube and around Google Classroom. Slowly, you can see it twice, thrice, so that you can till you grasp. So what is the difference? All the arrangements are same. The 3 directional control valves, totally 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So one is push button valve, directional control valve. These are pilot operated valves, 2 pilot operated valves, 3 pilot operated valves, and 4 limit switch operated directional control valves. These are roller operated means limit switches. 4 limit switches are there. A minus, A plus, B minus, B plus. So A plus, A minus, B plus, B minus. So 4 limit switch operated directional control valves. 1, 2, 3, 3 pilot operated directional control valves, and 1 push button directional control valve. So what is the difference? See, what is my requirement? I want sequential control. So once cylinder A is extended, we saw the application. Unless and until the job, let us say drilling, automated drilling operation. Unless and until the job is fixed in the jaw sets on the table, so cylinder A will fix the job, and once it is fixed, thereafter the spindle should move down to do the drilling operation. The spindle is, let us say, hydraulic or pneumatically operated. Thereafter, the cylinder B will start extending and will do the drilling operation, and thereafter the clamp will be relieved, maybe B minus and then A minus. So like that, there are many applications. And what is the difference in earlier sequential control and cascade control? So there are 2 groups are made. Just see here. Group 1 is having a separate supply line, and group 2 has got separate supply line. And they have made groups. Okay. Group A, we have power to push button valve, power to limit switch valve. Okay. And then one more connection, getting supply from pilot operated valve, and 4th one. So 1, 2, 3, and 4. And here also this is group 1, and group 2 is 1. Sorry, group 2 is 1, 2, 3, and 4. So these are grouped separately, and accordingly I get A plus, A plus, A plus, B plus, B minus, and A minus. So this is how I get. Just quickly we'll go through. With cascade control, the sequence of operations divided into groups with no cylinder letter appearing more than once in each group. So thus for the sequence A plus, B plus, B minus, A minus, we can have the groups A plus, B plus, and then A minus, B minus. A valve is then used to switch the air supply between the 2 groups. That is air to group A plus, B plus, and then air is switched to group A minus, B minus. A start-stop valve is included in the line that selects the first group, and if the sequence is to be continuously repeated, the last operation has to supply a signal to start the sequence over and over again. Friends, you just go through this repeatedly, because quickly we cannot complete it because we have got time constraints as well. The first function in each group is initiated by the group supply being switched on. Further actions within the group are controlled by switch operated valves, and the last valve operation initiates the next group to be selected. Okay, just go through it repeatedly. Then you have got, I'll try to put, there are very nice YouTube lectures also by some other experts even for cascade control and register control. Videos are there where they show the animation, how the valve actuation takes place. Okay, then meter in and meter out hydraulic circuit we'll see. In order to control the speed of the actuator, such as hydraulic cylinder, hydraulic design engineer consider the flow control circuit, and these are basically 3 types: meter in, meter out circuits. There are 2 types actually. There are number of types. Out of that, I have identified meter in and meter out circuit. Meter in flow control circuit represents the controlling of fluid flow just before metering in, controlling flow while the fluid is entering the actuator. Metering in. So before it enters the actuator, I am controlling the flow with the help of flow control valve. So this is meter in. As simple common sense says, the flow is controlled before the fluid enters the actuator. before entering the actuator. And how will be the meter out? The flow is controlled at the discharge side of the actuator. So once the fluid comes out of, after leaving the cylinder actuator, the flow is controlled. Now, what could be the reason? Just can anyone think and tell me? See, all the piston rods have got inertia. Whenever load is connected to the piston rod, they have, once you apply pressure, you have pushed it, fine. You have relieved pressure, still because of the inertia, it will keep on moving forward. That might hamper my work. So what I want is, I want precise positioning. Once it is pushed from position X to X1, it should remain there. But what happens if I give supply pressure and leave the pressure? The piston is pushed, and because of the inertia of the load and the piston rod, will keep on pushing. So I cannot control the motion. So for that, what I need to control the flow. By controlling the inlet flow, will it be possible? It is possible to some extent, but because of inertia, as I said, it might be moving further. So there, meter out will be more effective if I want to control the inertia forces. Flow out of the actuator, if I control, so this inertia effect will be reduced because there will be some back pressure from the other side of the piston. So that inertia, because of the inertia, the piston keeps on moving, the load keeps on moving. But I have got the flow control at discharge valve, so that will block my motion, that will reduce my motion. So I have got better control in meter out circuit to reduce the inertia forces. So in meter in flow control circuit, flow control valve will be installed in such a way that fluid flow to the actuator could be controlled. We can also say that there could be a restriction in the fluid flow to the actuator. You see the circuit. So both the inlet and outlet, we have got flow control valves, and we have got 1, 2, 3 position valves. Okay, this is the hydraulic circuit because we have got a sump, we have got a pump and sump. Okay, this is the bypass circuit when no work is being done. When this is moved, these are this symbol, if you remember, this is a solenoid operated direction control valve, solenoid operated direction control valves, and these are check valves and restrictors. Okay, flow control valves. So if I control the flow at the inlet of the cylinder, it will be metering in, and if I control the flow at the outlet, it will be meter out circuit. Okay, so meter out, if the load on an actuator is overrunning, that's what I was telling, because of inertia. In that situation, meter in flow control circuit will not be able to control the speed of actuator because of overrunning load on actuator will make the actuator rod, that is cylinder rod, to extend due to weight of vertical load. That is overrunning load. Flow control will be installed on discharge end or return side of the actuator. Cylinder, that is a cylinder, in order to control the discharge of fluid flow. Meter out flow control circuit will control the flow of fluid leaving the actuator, and meter in flow control circuit will control the flow of fluid entering the actuator. This is the meter out circuitry. I think we are done, friends. Let us stop here. We have completed whatever is stipulated in the syllabus. In fact, I'm going to do more practice circuitry during the practical season. Those who have done diploma, whatever scheme, I don't remember the scheme, but they have done many circuits on hydraulic trainer. We also have hydraulic and pneumatic trainers. We'll try to build more and more circuits and try to understand the concept, implement the concepts of automation effectively. So friends, we'll stop for today.